Alright, this screencast is going to start with the German Blitzkrieg invasions. And the first thing I need you to do is pause, open another YouTube web browser, and Google the Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones and just listen to that song just to get you in the mood for the screencast, okay? Because you don't get to use the word Blitzkrieg every day, so you might as well enjoy some good music early on, okay? Alright, Blitzkrieg is going to be Germany's method of invading and attacking nations during this war. It is a term that literally means lightning warfare. And the thing about lightning is that it's fast and it's unexpected. You know, the lightning flashes and you're prepared for the thunder, but you're never really prepared for when the lightning's going to strike. And that is kind of Hitler's logic with his style of military combat. He's not taking on that whole defensive strategy any longer. He's just going to go quick, invade you swiftly with everything he has, where you are caught off guard, you don't see him coming, and that's how he is successful. And he is going to use Blitzkrieg to successfully attack Poland, to successfully attack and capture other countries such as Norway, Denmark, and eventually he's going to start eyeing France, and he's going to turn his attention towards France. Okay, so with this invasion of France, basically France is kind of expecting an invasion directly from Germany. The part of the French border in the northeast directly touches Germany, and then more towards the north, Belgium sits between Germany and France. But France is kind of predicting a more southern, like a more direct invasion from Germany. But Hitler's going to actually surprise France by cutting through Belgium, through a forest line, actually. So a line of trees where, you know, they really would not think he would cut through the tree line because there are so many impediments and that would make it more difficult. But because he knows that's where he could get the largest element of surprise, that's where he chooses to cut through. So he does cut through Belgium, and he will effectively invade France. Unfortunately, France isn't really able to fight off Germany very well, and within nearly a month, just over a month really, France will pretty much fully surrender to German control. So France falls, very sadly, very early on in the war to being completely controlled by Germany. Now, I'll have some pictures for y'all in class when we come back from break, but if you're familiar with the film Dunkirk, this is where that event takes place, in which the British soldiers who are in France trying to help the French fight off the Germans are very unsuccessfully doing so, and they're pushed all the way back to the coastline, where they're literally on the beaches of the English Channel, awaiting rescue as the German military approaches them. And that's pretty much the majority of England's military force stuck on those beaches. So if they're not rescued in time, then Germany will not only capture all of France, but also the large majority of the British military force, which is very bad for England if they're to defend themselves successfully in this war. So luckily, with the help of civilian boats coming from England, they're able to evacuate hundreds and thousands of both British and French soldiers across the channel back into England, where they're safe, at least for now. So that's an amazing rescue, and even though France fell and it was a huge military defeat, it was awesome that the soldiers were rescued in that Dunkirk evacuation. Okay, but even though France, falls, or not even though, because France falls, England pretty much knows, Great Britain knows, it's up next. The attack of Germany against the British will be known as Operation Sea Lion. And basically, Hitler is going to plan an aerial, air attack on British soil. There will be two countries will use their air force in these attacks. Mainly, Germany's going to be attacking England, but England's going to fight back with their planes as well. So I want us to know the titles of the two countries' different air forces. For England, for Britain, we call it the Royal Air Force, which is usually shortened to RAF. And then for Germany, it's the German Air Force, which is the Luftwaffe, as spelled on the screen. Kind of an interesting term there, Luftwaffe. But that's going to be the German Air Force. So for weeks, really for close to 2 months, Germany will come at Great Britain from different angles every night, attacking airfields, attacking the cities within England, and really just trying to instill fear in the citizens. There are a lot of movies that depict these kind of World War II bombing raids where Germany would, attack London, attack other major cities, and really destroy a lot of buildings and infrastructure and scare the heck out of the civilians living there. So it's a scary time for England. But luckily, the RAF is able to detect when these Luftwaffe attacks are going to happen because we have a new invention called radar. And radar is going to be used to determine when the Luftwaffe were on their way, and then the British RAF can get off the ground and fight off the Luftwaffe. And it's probably the reason that England's going to be able to pretty much with most attacks at least eventually chase them off. England will never surrender in this operation, and eventually, honestly, Hitler kind of has to give up, at least for now, attacking Great Britain because Operation Sea Lion's not working in his favor, and it's the first time since the war started that that's happened. These are just some pictures, a map of some of the different attacks coming from different countries. Notice there are lines coming from France, as well as the northeastern picture, Norway and Denmark, and that's because, again, Germany owns, at this point, France. Germany is controlling Denmark and Norway, so they can use those various countries as launching pads. Okay, we're now going to look at the German invasion of the Soviet Union, which is known as Operation Barbarossa. And if you can recall, Stalin and Hitler had a non-aggression pact. Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. But I think he's starting to lose it a little bit. I mean, clearly Hitler's already lost it, but now, even more so, the fact that he was unsuccessful with his fight against Great Britain in Operation Sea Lion, he just is kind of going a little mad. He gets it in his head that he can't trust Stalin anymore, that he'll never be able to focus on the Western Europe front with Joseph Stalin behind his back. So he invades the Soviet Union and makes an enemy out of Joseph Stalin, which was a poor decision and pretty much where things really started going wrong for him. Obviously, the Soviet Union is a very large country. I'm sure you've seen a map of Russia. It's not small. Soviet Union's large. They are well defended. They are well protected. There's some political turmoil overall. Maybe Hitler thinks he can catch them in a weak moment, but overall, they are going to be hard to defeat. And in the beginning, Germany does make good progress into the Soviet Union, but then he hits a city called Stalingrad. And I think I have a bullet there with the spelling. And the thing he learns in Stalingrad is how desperately cold it gets during a Russian winter. Very, very cold. Thousands and thousands and thousands of soldiers on both sides are going to die in this city alone during a very lengthy battle at Stalingrad. Many dying in battle, many freezing to death, dying of other illness. It's just a very, very cruel winter to experience. And it's going to be a long-fought battle, and eventually Hitler is going to recognize that it's just beyond his grasp, and he's not going to be able to push any further into the Soviet Union. So this is also kind of a failed attempt for him. He does make some progress, but again, he's eventually going to hit a wall and not going to be able to make it to the capital of Moscow. And so we look at this as kind of another failed attempt. And again, heavy casualties on both sides. I think no country lost as many military lives as the Soviet Union did during this war because of how hard they had to fight Germany in the really blink of winter. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about in class today is the war in North Africa. That way, when we come back from break, we can pick up with our involvement in the war from our perspective, having gone from a stance of isolationism and actually getting involved in the war with the attack at Pearl Harbor. So, the war is going to be kind of taking place in North Africa because so many European countries had been colonizing parts of Africa. And so it's kind of like all their colonial territories are potential locations for where the fighting could take place. Also, I want you to look at your maps and notice that the northern part of Africa sits just below the Mediterranean Sea, thus just below Italy. And Italy is about to become an official ally with Hitler and with Japan, because we're officially having a group aligning themselves together through what is called the Tripartite Pact. The Tripartite Pact is a alliance agreement signed between Germany, Italy, and Japan. And Japan, you may wonder, what do they have to do with it when they're on the other side of the world? But the thing is, Germany sees a potential U.S. intervention in this war, and he would love for Japan to be a distraction for us in an opposite part of the world so that he can not have to worry about us as much. So they're in favor of this kind of union. These three countries will officially make the Axis powers. So this is that official uniting of the Axis. And again, the other countries will be known as the Allies, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States. Oh, I should have said this with the invasion of the Soviet Union. The second that, Hitler turns his back on Joseph Stalin and invades the Soviet Union, they are going to join forces with Great Britain. So they're going to enter this war on the Ally side, okay, which is pretty clear since they were attacked by Hitler. Now, the main reason, once this little agreement is found, this tripartite pact, the reason that England, because Churchill's going to be the one that wants to start fighting in North Africa, is because the Allies want to use Africa as a launching point. Look at your map, they can cross north over the Mediterranean Sea into Italy. They can invade Europe and invade the Axis from the south, even though it would be easier to go through France because it's just right across the channel from them, and you can look at those maps, those countries on the map as well. They want to come from the south. Stalin refers to Italy as, quote-unquote, the soft underbelly of Europe, which is kind of like calling it a weak point where they could enter into the country and then eventually attack Germany from the south. So they want to cut through Italy to get to Hitler and attack, Italy along the way, since Italy's Hitler's ally. And that is why they're going to launch a campaign in North Africa. So we looked at a lot. We've seen fighting in France, fighting in Great Britain, fighting in the Soviet Union, fighting in North Africa. We're going to talk about how America comes into this story in class when we come back from holiday. I know this is a long screencast. Please write down any questions you all have. I hope you have a great break. Happy Mardi Gras.